Hey, it's Drybear. I know we just got 10.0.5, but 10.0.7, the next major content update for Dragonflight, is already entering PTR, and we have some major notes to go over today, including more class reworks, talent additions and removals, and tree reworks and movement around there, as well as some balance and other things like that. So let's dive into it. As always, if you have any questions or comments for me, you'll find me live every day on twitch.tv/Drybear. Come by and say hi. All right, so there's a lot to unpack here in this 10.0.7 PTR development notes. Again, a precursor to this, a disclaimer. These are the PTR notes. These can change and probably will change in some degree, but it is kind of pretty extensive what they're touching on here. So I wanted to at least talk about this, look at what's coming in the PTR. I'll probably jump on the PTR and test some of this stuff in another video in the future, but just so we know what's going on and what it is that they're thinking about. So first off is the Forbidden Reach, which is really cool. New area, it's our new zone. You'll learn more about the story of the Dragonflight III Evoker awakening now that Razageth has been defeated, and we're moving on from that. This zone includes new content for max level players, delving into the troubles left behind by the meddling of the primalists and the chaos they've left behind again among the elements. Players will discover hidden treasure rooms with the Dragonscale Expedition, encounter new bosses and objectives, more storms, new loot to add to their arsenal, and more. So this is kind of like their next open world aspect of the expansion, which is cool. The monk class expands to new races. Lightforged Draenor, Worgen, and Goblin can now be monks. Lightforged Draenor and Worgen monk NPCs have been added to, all the relevant NPCs have been added to the areas. Next, let's talk about the class changes. Some pretty big stuff in here. Starting with Death Knight, okay? Death Knight Unholy Epidemic has swapped places with Unholy Blight within the tree. Generally, I like this. I think Unholy Blight was just kind of in a weird spot. Epidemic is something that you want in general, so we'll see how the builds shift off from those two things being swapped in the location in the tree. Pestilence implementation has been updated to better reflect the functionality of the tooltip. Neato. Rotten Touch duration increased to 10 seconds from 6 seconds. We like that. Runic Mastery now also increases Runic Corruption's rune regeneration rate by an additional 10-20%. Commander of the Dead has been updated to always buff your nearby Gargoyle and Army of the Dead ghouls for 30 seconds after using Dark Transformation. So we'll always buff your nearby Gargoyle and Army of the Dead ghouls. The previous implementation of Commander of the Dead had too many edge cases where it would not always buff your minions, or the window was too tight and created less than ideal rotational impact. You kind of had to keep track of where your pets were before you used it, which I think is kind of just like an added layer that didn't need to exist. And instead, it's now an aura. So when you activate this for 30 seconds, the nearest pet that it can buff will be buffed. The Gargoyle or Army of the Dead ghoul, regardless of when they were spawned in after Dark Transformation, which it's going to make this a lot cleaner. It's not like it's going to have a major impact on, it's not going to make you stronger or weaker, but it does feel good. It's going to feel much better. It's one weird aspect of Unholy. It didn't need to be there, and I'm glad that it's gone personally. There are additional changes for Unholy Death Knights coming in the future builds that aim to address some quality of life concerns and underperforming talents. I'm surprised that they're focusing a lot on Unholy. I was hoping to see more Frost here, because I feel like Unholy is kind of winning a little bit. Though I would agree that there's plenty of quality of life stuff that Unholy needs that will make them better off. Druid, Protector of the Pack's cap now stores up to 400% of the Druid spell power for Balance, Feral, and Guardian, and 300% spell power for Restoration was 240. So if you didn't know, they made a back-end change in 10.0.5 that reworked how this was calculated, which ended up indirectly nerfing it. So it got a lot worse because they made that change. They did a hotfix buff to it to try and get it back to what it was. It didn't make it all the way there. And this, I'm hoping, is maybe they mathed it out so that it's equal to, or hopefully much better than it was before. But it's going from 240% to 400%, which is really nice. Hopefully that gets it back to at least what it was, if not more. Resto Druid, easily one of the best healers in Dragonflight ever since the season started. They dominate in all aspects of content along with the Preservation Evoker. So there's some changes in here that are kind of interesting. Let's go through the new talents first. New talent, Tranquil Mind, increases Omen of Clarity's chance to activate clear casting to 5%, and clear casting can stack one additional time. kind of an interesting talent. Clear casting, it is useful, especially when you have in raid, when you have high stacks of abundance. You can cast it for lower mana costs, although when you have clear casting, it doesn't matter anyways. So it's a higher chance to proc clear casting, and it'll have an additional stack of clear casting, so you have 2 regrowths in the chamber for whenever you want. Deep Focus, when Moonfire, Rake, Rip, or Rejuvenation are active on a single target, their effects are increased by 40%. We've had this in many different places before. I like this. This means that like in specifically like Arena in PvP, and in some cases where you want to just heal a tank or spot heal someone, when you have a singular effect on them, Rejuvenation, it helps, and it also increases your boss damage because you'll have Moonfire, Rake, or Rip up on the target. When it's on one target and no one else, you're not doing any cleave damage or AoE damage, it increases the damage. So you can actually get some nice damage out of this. It just depends on where this is in the tree and how much it costs you to get it. But I think that this probably could be pretty good for Mythic Plus as an easy way to kind of fight off some of the damage requirements for high keys. Embrace of the Dream now also triggers on targets with regrowth, heal over time effect. Cool. Regenerative Heartwood now also extends the duration of Ironbark by 4 seconds. I don't know if 4 is the right number, but I like where this is going. That does seem pretty cool. Natural Wisdom is now a baseline effect on Innervate for Restoration Druids. No longer increases mana regeneration by 5%, and the additional Innervate effectiveness has been reduced to 50%. So you get baseline effect on Innervate without having to talent into this. It makes the tree a little bit easier and a little bit cleaner, but the effect has been reduced. And again, I haven't done the math to see if this is equivalent. It probably is pretty close to equivalent, but we will see. Improved Wild Growth has moved to a new location, 1 slot to the right. Which is this right here. So I'm guessing maybe it moved over here, or maybe it moved over here, and maybe it won't go, maybe it only goes straight down and it won't go to Harmonious Blooming. It's kind of a little bit hard to understand what 1 slot to the right means. Maybe it moves over here and it doesn't have this connection anymore. So maybe you can't go Ironbark, Improved Wild Growth into Harmonious Blooming. Then Cultivation is moving over to where Improved Wild Growth was. So this is moving over. So it looks like they're kind of condensing this middle part of the tree. Then Nourish up here is moving down to this location to the left of your Tranquility modifiers, right underneath Efflorescence. So you go Efflo into Nourish, I guess, and then this and this are moving over to the right. Tranquil Mind's going up into the top right. The Forest Flow and Wild Synthesis choice node has been moved to a new location directly below Flourish. So that's going to be moved all the way up to the top right. Where Flourish is. Embrace of the Dream and Budding Leaves have swapped. Germination and Power of the Archdruid have swapped. Invigorate is no longer on a choice node with Power of the Archdruid, as moved direction or locations to directly beneath Overgrowth in the bottom left. Power of the Archdruid is now on a choice node with Undergrowth, and Circle of Life and Death is now on a choice node with Deep Focus, which is the new talent they talk about here. So, holy gosh, that's kind of everywhere. Tranquil Mind is going to move up. Which it makes sense. Tranquil Mind modifies Omen of Clarity. The top right is already Omen of Clarity anyways. So that's the changes they're making to Resto Druid. I guess they're trying to make Nourish more viable. They're making the tree a little bit more straightforward. It won't really affect the bottom of the tree very much at all, but maybe the pathway on how you get there will be modified by that. On to Evoker. Drakthir's racial ability, Chosen Identity, will now cause Drakthir to automatically assume their Visage form when they resurrect. Now, I'm still waiting for the day that they allow us to be in Visage form all the time. I'm wondering if they're going to make that for just when the next expansion comes out, they'll allow us to do it. They just want to make sure that in Dragonflight, you see dragons everywhere, and having Drakthirs forced into their dragon form is part of it. But pretty cool. If you get rezzed, you'll be in your Visage form by default. Neato burrito. Drakthir now know the Aerial Halt ability, which we'll talk about in a second. It just stops your forward momentum, and you can do it as a Drakthir as well. So if you want to kind of stop in midair and drop, you can. Drop, pop, and lock it. Draconic Legacy now increases stamina by 3%, 6%, up from 2-4. Foci of Life has been redesigned. Renewing Blaze restores you more quickly, causing damage you take to be healed back over 4 seconds, which is crazy, actually. The Renewing Blaze is already pretty strong, but this heal now is going to get a lot more viable. This will have implications for PvP, but we'll see if this sticks or not. It's pretty crazy, 4 seconds. Ancient Flame has been redesigned. Casting Emerald Blossom or Verdant Embrace reduces the cast time of your next living flame. It's possible Devastation may take advantage of this because you can just instantly Verdant Embrace yourself. You know, because it might be an option. Ancient Flame has been moved to Roar of Exhilaration's location in the talent tree, and Roar of Exhilaration has been removed, which is, I actually had to look it up because it just never really comes into play. It's a talent point that allows you to get an extra essence every time you interrupt someone. So, I mean, maybe this is useful in PvP. I can't imagine justifying a point being spent on this. You'd much rather just have the cooldown reduction on it. But this is being removed. So goodbye, Roar of Acceleration. I'm guessing no one took this. Maybe they did, but I've never seen it. But it's going away anyways. Goodbye. For Devastation, Verdant Embrace, healing increased by 35%. I'm all for this. It's an instant cast on yourself, so you can just instantly heal yourself. It doesn't heal anywhere near as well as the Preservation version of it. So having this here is actually pretty cool. It should make survival for Devastation Evokers a little bit more viable. Monk Mistweaver, in an effort to try and keep them in competition with their other counterparts in the healing spectrum, Mistweaver is getting a pretty cool change. Thunder Focus T now causes Enveloping Mist to become instant cast, and in addition to its current effect. So when you Thunder Focus T and Enveloping Mist, it adds an additional on hit heal, like a burst heal, plus the application of Enveloping Mist. Now, this is actually pretty impactful. It's going to make Enveloping Mist instant. So when you Thunder Focus T and then Enveloping Mist, it'll be an instant cast, whether you have Chi-Ji or Yulon or not, and it'll also still gain its bonus healing. So this makes the caster playstyle a lot more interesting. It actually will help Fist Weaving as well, because then you can do, you can maybe pre-cast your Essence Font in Raid, or in Mythic Plus, you can just get some really big burst off of it. And in Raid, you can use Enveloping Mist or Enveloping Breath to better effect, which is pretty cool. Paladin Protection. Faith in the Light's block value increased to 1530 from 510, so tripled in strength. That's awesome. Focus Enmity has been redesigned. I'm so glad for this one. I never really like Focused Enemy, but there are builds that run it, and it's actually quite good where it is, and I like this rework. So Focus Enmity is the talent in the bottom left of the prot tree that makes it so your Avenger Shield no longer bounces, but does more damage. So it's more like a single target Avenger Shield. It still works great with Divine Toll, and in certain situations can be super viable. Especially when you're running Moment of Glory that bubbles you based on damage you deal and gives you Avenger Shield scaling. In this case, rather than just being, it no longer bounces, it just does more damage. It now says, when it strikes a single enemy, it deals additional holy damage. So it still bounces if it can. If it doesn't bounce, it does the bonus damage, which I think is a lot more flexible. It doesn't cut off your ability to bounce your Avenger Shield. But when you have a single target like a boss, you have Focused Enmity run, you can throw out your Avenger Shield. It does the single target damage because it's not bouncing. And then it has that flexibility, which is, I think, a really cool thing. Retribution is coming with a rework. We already talked about that in another video. Their general philosophy on this. I'm not going to rehash that here. But if you're interested, I can drop the link down in the description for the Ret redesign. They're basically kind of targeting. They highlighted some issues that a lot of people agree with on Ret, but we don't know what exactly they're doing yet. So we'll have to kind of hold our breath on that. Discipline fixed an issue causing Expiation to deal more damage than intended and ignore damage reduction effects. Cool. Shaman. Look at this. You see this? Do you see this? That's a lot of words, Batman. It's a big word for Elmo. Shaman. Earth Elemental and Primal Earth Elemental no longer taunt or pulse threat to enemies the Shaman is not in combat with. So it's going to make the Earth Elemental much easier to rely on. And there's like this Shaman anxiety that you get when you're about to pop Earth Elemental and you're like, is this going to be bad for me if I do this? So they're adding some things that make that less so. So Earth Elemental won't taunt or trigger enemies that aren't in combat with you. And even more importantly, Earth Elemental and Primal Earth Elemental no longer taunt or pulse threat to enemies that are attacking a player with a tank specialization. So Rejoice Shamans, you can now feel less anxiety when you press your Earth Elemental button, because if a tank has aggro, it won't pulse threat and it won't taunt. It also won't grab enemies that aren't in combat with you. So all of that is really cool. Astral Shift duration increased by 50% from 8 seconds to 12 seconds. Astral Shift is one of the best personals in the entire game. It's flat damage reduction, and now it's going to last 12 seconds. That is nuts. This is a crazy buff for shamans. Maybe they're seeing, because they talked about death rate of ret paladins in their design notes here. Maybe they're seeing death rate in shamans as well, like enhancement, elemental, maybe even restoration, and just 50% increase on Astral Shift. This is going to be huge. Plains Traveler no longer increases the duration of Astral Shift, so you don't need to get that talent anymore. Astral Bulwark, for this purpose, I mean. Astral Bulwark now reduces damage taken by an additional 20% instead of 15, so that got buffed. Improved Lightning Bolt got removed. Thunderstorm has been removed to improve Lightning Bolt's position in the talent tree, so shoring that upwards a little bit. Lightning Bolt damage increased by 20%, so you don't need improved Lightning Bolt anymore. It's now base kit. So 20% Lightning Bolt damage. This is going to affect all specializations. So damage increase for all of them. Go with the Flow now reduces the cooldown of Spirit Walk by 10-20 seconds instead of 7.5 to 15. So making Spirit Walk longer. By the way, like, I love my Shaman, but the fact that Evokers get they get their Spirit Walker's Grace and all that, they just get it. They get it for free. And then some of the mobility options are there. And then you look at Shaman that has some of that. So Spirit Walk is going to reduce the cooldown of Spirit Walk. It's pretty long already. I feel like the Gust is more fun, but if you do run Spirit Walk, which is the movement speed, you can get it longer, that sort of thing. Thunderous Pause can now trigger once every 20 seconds instead of 60 seconds. That's neat. Poison Cleansing Totem now removes all poison effects from the target. This is huge. You had to talent into Poison Cleansing Totem. It was a separate button you had to add on your hotbar, and it still only removed one poison. So this is going to be, so for next season, season 2, look for Shamans to be huge when it comes to Brackenhide, because there's a lot of poisons in there that are very deadly, and having a Shaman in your group that has Poison Cleansing is going to be clutch. Enfeeblement now applies during Hex and lasts for 6 seconds after Hex ends. That's a nice change. Ancestral Wolf Affinity has moved to the class tree and removed from all specialization trees. Focus Insight has moved to the enhancement and elemental specialization trees in the place of Ancestral Wolf Affinity. Wow. This is intentionally being removed from restoration to avoid having too many talents that modify healing values. So this in the class tree is just going to enhancement and elemental in their spec trees on the right, and then it's not being added to restoration. So I'm wondering if that just becomes more of an annoyance for enhancement and elemental to pick this up in their own class tree, or where, I mean, if they add it to a wing and it doesn't really affect anything, or if it's in the major flow of the tree, we don't know. But that is interesting. Swirling Currents have been redesigned, increase the healing done by Healing Stream Totem and Cloud Burst by 10-20%. This is so much easier. It's just good or not good. It's a little bit more straightforward. Several talents have been moved position in the class tree. This is this like are these supposed to be indented? I don't know like what this is. This like a separate note? I'm guessing that this is like they say this and then this is the list that comes after. But Healing Stream Totem has swapped positions with Spirit Walker's Grace in the left side talent tree. Swirling Currents has swapped positions with Graceful Spirit Walker's Aegis in the talent tree and also has been redesigned. Ancestral Guidance has swapped positions with Nature's Swiftness. That's cool. Wait, that means Nature's Swiftness is in the bottom and Ancestral Guidance is a little bit higher. This is cool, actually. This makes it much nicer, I think, for Resto Shamans that have to get Ancestral Guidance, and it means you don't have to go to the bottom of the tree to get it anymore. That's actually a really nice change talent-wise. That means that we can get some cool, maybe some more utility without having to go all the way down to Ancestral Guidance. I like that. Nature's Guardian has swapped positions with Totemic Surge. Earth Shield has swapped positions with Earth Elemental, so it's a little bit easier to get to. Elemental Orbit has been moved under Earth Shield in the talent tree. Starter builds have all been updated. Neato. And then here we go. More words. Restoration Shaman. Lightning Bolt damage increased by 35%. Remember that that's in addition to the default change of 20%. So Lightning Bolt's going up a lot. Chain Lightning damage increased by 35%. These both are huge. I think Resto Shamans, if they can cast constantly on damage, they do very respectable damage, incredible damage. Single target with a lava burst, and AoE with chain lightning. And they also have their Stormkeeper, so they can do some big bolts there, some big chain lightnings there. The difference is it's only if they can keep casting, which, you know, if you're doing restoration in competitive content, you know, like mythic rating and high keys, you do have to heal people. And I think this was just kind of becoming more of a problem. So this means that you can spend more time healing and still deal damage, and the damage will be respectable without having to feel like you're missing globals on that. Wellspring healing reduced by 30%. There's a small reason for this in a second, but I don't know, Batman. Water Shield has been removed and added as baseline. This is awesome. I hated having Resto Shaman builds that didn't have Water Shield because you needed the points. Water Shield is just crucial. It needs to be there. You need to have it core kit, especially when you're running the multiple shields on the class tree, and then you don't have Water Shield. It just feels kind of weird, man. Resurgence has moved to Water Shield's position in the challenge tree. That could be interesting. New talent, Currents Control, reduces the cooldown of Healing Tide Totem by 30 seconds. So 2.5 minutes for Healing Tide. Neato. New talent, Tide Turner. The lowest health target of Healing Tide Totem is healed for 30% more and receives 15% more healing from you for 4 seconds. I have a couple questions about how this functions. I think this is really cool. It's gonna like spot heal a little bit better when you have it down, which will overall make Healing Tide Totem, this 30% actually will probably feel really good when you look at the logs and you actually parse it out, because then you're kind of boosting it up. And I'm curious, like every time it pulses, does it apply a new version of this buff? If like people get popped up and you can, you know, get, you know, pulse, new one, you can get, you know, several duplicates of this buff going around a lot more. And remember, they did double the healing of Healing Tide in dungeons, which is pretty cool. So I'm curious to see how the you know, the actual function of this, like how this is programmed. But once this goes in the game, I actually like this change quite a lot. A choice node has been added below Mana Tide to modify it, so you get 2 modifiers. New talent, they don't have a name for it yet. Increases the duration and the radius of Mana Tide Totem. Radius is huge. You compare like what is it, Source of Magic or the Symbol of Hope, which is like the entire room, versus the Mana Tide Totem, which are like, hey, I have a Mana Tide Totem. Healers, come over to me and sit around the campfire and sing Kumbaya as we bong our bongos. No, radius is pretty small on Mana Tide. So having a radius increase, which is good. I hope this is a big increase. You can actually get good value out of it. It's hard to coordinate with healers, like, hey, come stand here with me to get mana back. It's kind of lame. New talent, Spirit Walker's Tidal Totem. After using Mana Tide Totem, the cast time of Healing Wave and Chain Heal is reduced, and the mana cost of Healing Wave and Chain Heal are reduced. This is gonna be really cool. I mean, you can spend all your Rising Tides or whatever it's called, your Swelling Waves procs a lot more easily. This might make it more viable for more of the Primordial Wave build, and also will help, I think, with it will help with like running High Tide or things like that, because you can reduce the mana cost and the cast time of Chain Heal, which is both very, very insane. Flow of the Tides now grants an additional bounce of Chain Heal in addition to its current effect. Dude, High Tide is on the rise, pun intended. These are some really nice changes. You'll basically have Tide Totem. It depends, like this is 10 seconds after Mana Tide Totem, but you can actually get some really cool effects on this, and then Flow of the Tides could be picked up nicely. This is the note that I was talking about earlier. Unleash Life now converts 40% of Wellspring's overhealing to an Absorb Shield instead of 25%. So Wellspring healing reduced by 30%, but now Unleash Life is more effective with Wellspring. I don't know what's going on here. I mean, I feel like Wellspring doing well in raid is good for Resto Shaman. I'm not sure why they're trying to make this change. Maybe we'll just see how it plays out. Unleash Life into Wellspring is what you do most of the time anyway, because these a pretty long cooldown. Unleash Life usually lines up with every Wellspring, so you're usually fine doing so. And then rather than having the upfront healing be like reduced by 30% is quite a lot, and then Unleash Life can have an extra shield on it. I feel like this is still a net nerf, but we'll see. Maybe the build, maybe they're just trying to make it so you use a buff like Unleash Life prior to Wellspring every time rather than just spamming Wellspring for healing. But I don't know. I feel like Shamans aren't healing so insanely that they need this kind of change, but we'll see. Ever-Rising Tide has been removed. Downpour has been moved to Ever-Rising Tide's position in the talent tree. Interesting. Nature's Focus has been removed. The PvP talent Tidebringer has moved to Nature's Focus position as a 2-point talent. No frickin' way. Tidebringer is being moved into the class tree so PvE Resto Shaman can get it. Every 8 seconds, the cast time of your next chain heal is reduced by 50% and the jump distance increased by 100%. Whoa! Dude, High Tide is on the rise, gamers. Oh my God, dude. High Tide build. It's coming. It's coming. So Nature Focus is out. This prevents High Tide from being like super strong on the initial, right? So this Nature's Focus is super great for High Tide because the primary target of chain heal is increased, and then a High Tide makes so it doesn't get reduced per jump, so super value there. So it's not like a perfect win because you lose Nature's Focus. So indirectly High Tide being nerfed a little bit there, but then getting Tidebringer, which maybe they're trying to make like regular chain heal more viable. Because then you can run Spirit Walker's Tidal Totem, and then you can run Tidebringer from PvP, and it's added between Tidebringer and Primal Tidecore High Tide on the side there. So hey man, that's an option. Chain Heal's tooltip has been updated to indicate jump distance to give more context to Tidebringer talent. Call of Thunder has been removed. Stormkeeper has moved to Call of Thunder's position in the talent tree. So this increases the damage of your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning. This is just going to be base kit. They separated them out in kind of a weird way, but this is going to be base kit. So you're going to have Call of Thunder by default, and then Stormkeeper's going over there, which means that I guess Astral Wolf Affinity is saying as a non-choice node here, Water Shield is now base kit as well, and then Stormkeeper's going over here, and Call of Thunder is just baseline, which saves you that extra point, which is pretty cool. Then finally, Acid Rain and Overflowing Shores are being separated. So Acid Rain's going to stay right here where it is, and then Overflowing Shores is going to be an extra bit. So you can actually get both of these now. You can improve your Healing Rain with the instant heal, and then you can also get Acid Rain for damage, which, you know, that's pretty cool. Both of these are going to be there. Dragonriding, since we're getting a new zone, new Dragonriding glyphs in the Forbidden Reach to unlock new Dragonriding traits, because we'll get more in that Dragonriding talent tree. The first one is Aerial Halt. You'll flap back and reduce forward momentum, movement. And this is actually built in. You can actually use this as a Drakthir as well. So if you have forward, you're going too fast, you need to stop, you can Aerial Halt. And then there's a passive Airborne Recovery. When you activate Aerial Halt while affected by Thrill of the Skies, you generate 1 Vigor. So you can, and that way you still get some of that back. 16 new customization manuscripts have been added. Hopefully these are really cool, but more customizations for our dragons. That's nice. Put your Dragon Riding skills to the test in 6 new races in the new zone. Dragon Riding Racing World Quests have a new icon, so you can separate them from the regular World Quest. That's neato. Fixed an issue where players had personal effects like Shadow Form and Moonkin Form being applied to their dragons while they're customizing them. It's just a bug, so I guess that got fixed up. Orc Tauren and High Mountain Tauren Priest NPCs are now located in Orgrimmar, and Thunderbluff has new NPCs. Cool. Items and rewards. Items levels on legacy raids in the journal should now properly reflect the dropped items once more. So there's a lot of bugs with this where the item level wouldn't match. I guess they cleaned that up. Vendors will now buy your leftover enchanting stuff. I like it when they don't. I like it when they don't buy your enchanting materials until the next expansion, because then I feel like it's better for people to put this stuff on the auction house. I'd rather more of this material being spread around the community and the marketplace than just being sent to a vendor. I'm fine with this when a new expansion comes out, but I actually don't like this change. But hey, the vendors will now buy your enchanting stuff for a higher value. So there you go. This is one of the biggest notes here in the entire patch notes. So rejoice. The Balance of Power quest line is a quest line from Legion that took a long time, and you had to like talk to sigils from space, and you had flashbacks, and you did these memories, and your brain melted, and you went on these crazy drug trips, and you had to do all this crazy stuff. You do dungeons and raids and reps and all that. It's a huge undertaking. The Balance of Power questline after artifact appearance rewards are now account-wide. So what this means is, you know, you're not going to be able to, you know, the Mage Tower stuff isn't coming back, but all you have to do is complete Balance of Power on one character. And then the extra colors from completing Balance of Power will be available on every character on your account. Woo! That is awesome. It may be completed on any character to earn the appearances, and completing the requirements for certain color variants of Hunter will be unlocked in your priest on the same account. This is huge. I honestly have only done Balance of Power like twice, and I just couldn't be arsed to do it again. And I've just kind of lived with it, the fact that I just don't have those, because I can't. It's too long. It's too much. So luckily, if you've done it once, you're good to go. That's pretty awesome. So you might log into 10.0.7 and realize you have more artifact appearances that you didn't before because of this change. Awesome. PvP, Resto Druid. Tranquility healing is now increased by 100% while in arena combat with 5 or less players. The reason they're doing this is because if you get a few ticks of tranquility off, you're lucky. If you can channel the whole entirety of tranquility in an arena, something's wrong. You can't get the tick. So they're increasing the healing because it most often will get interrupted or CC'd in some way. So by having extra healing on it, it means that those few ticks that you do get will actually be a little bit more valuable for the Resto Druid. Keeper of the Grove, PvP talent healing increased, has been reduced to 20% from 100%. So that one got nerfed pretty hard. Revival healing is now increased by 100% while in arena. Restoral healing is now increased by 100%. So this one's nice. You can actually, I remember killing myself with Revival against Warlocks and stuff like that, and then the healing wasn't even worth it. It's just for the cleanse. So they're double the healing in arena. That's going to make this super long cooldown much more viable. Restoration Shaman in arena, 100% more on healing Tide Totem. In high arenas, these get destroyed anyway. Someone will tab over to it, kill the totem, and come back. So again, just like the Tranquility, it's not going to get its full value in most cases. Maybe it does if you're super slick and you hide it somewhere, but it's just going to get destroyed. Living Tide reduces the cooldown of healing Tide Totem by 60 seconds instead of 90. There's now a new talent that lowers it in the PvE side of things by 30 seconds, so they didn't want to double up on this. And it heals for 25% more each time it pulses instead of 100%. So they nerfed this because we now have a talent to lower it by 30 seconds. So they reduced this by 30 seconds, and it heals by 25% more because by default baseline, it heals for more. So overall, I think this is a really nice change. These healers are getting stronger in PvP. Tranquility is getting stronger, and Keeper of the Grove is getting nerfed. So there you go. Professions added a new profession specialization summary screen, which can be viewed for any unlocked profession. Our work not final. So that means you have to tab through all of them. It just has a summary, which is really nice. I feel like they should have shipped with this on launch, but it's nice that they're adding it now. The intent of this is to summarize what each specialization is about and make it easy to pick. Yeah, would have been great to have this on the start, but I think everyone figured it out eventually. So there you go. Engineering Zap Throttle Soul Inhaler has received several quality of life improvements. It can now be used while moving. You have to stop to use it. The channel time of the device has been reduced to 4 seconds instead of 12 seconds. Channeling the device for its full duration now marks the target elemental for 30 seconds. Slaying it during this window will also grant its soul. The cooldown for a successful soul capture has been reduced to 5 minutes from 15 minutes. I hadn't been leveling my engineering, but I've heard people complain about the soul inhaler. So this should be some nice quality of life. And that is the 10.0.7 PTR development notes right now. I'm sure we'll see more, but I wanted to at least get this video out to have people kind of look through this and see through this and see what's going on, what they're looking at. They are taking a look at Unholy DK, Resto Druid, Evokers, Monks, Paladins, Priests, and a bunch of Shaman changes. And hopefully this overall, I mean, I think I'm liking the direction for most of these. It just seems like they're all positive, healthy things without too many major, axes to the back of the neck. So overall, seems good. But let me know what you think down below in the comments. I'd love to read your comments on these notes here today. As always, if you have any questions or comments for me, you'll find me live every day on twitch.tv/Drybear. Come by and say hi. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content. Link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.